Hello YouTube friends. Hello, I'm back with another video today. So in today's video, I'm going to be comparing three different tools: Airtable, AITable, and Retable. These are all collaboration and database tools that are very similar to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and put them side by side and check out all the features. These tools combine the functionality of a spreadsheet, so it can be used for project management, data organization, customer relationship management or CRM, and content planning. So if you're curious as to how these three tools compare to each other, this video is for you. We're going to go ahead and compare tools from a user's perspective. We're going to go over each tool's feature and how they differ. We're also going to go over the different pricing for each tier that each platform has to offer. But the ultimate question that we're going to be answering today is which tool is right for you. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Dennis, and I'm a principal software engineer. I make videos on coding, automation, and AI every week. If you like videos like this, please make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell. All right, let's go ahead and get into the video. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at Airtable first and look at what's been generated for us once we log in. We are presented with the workspaces here, where we get our first workspace when we first sign up and create a new account. We can go ahead and collapse it or create a new space. A workspace is just a way of organizing your organizations. For instance, if you have an IT department or an HR or marketing department, you can go ahead and create a different workspace for each one of those. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and create a product workspace. I'm going to create and go ahead and click enter. And from here, we can go ahead and delete it or manage it and rename it if we want. But we're going to go ahead and create a base either from scratch. If you want to build out our workspace from the beginning, if you have a understanding of what's going on here, you want to think it around. But if you just want to go ahead and go about it in a template approach where it will give you the default settings and template for a specific type of workflow, you can go ahead and select quick start. They have different templates that's been provided for us. There's marketing, product development, project management, IT and support, and UX and research. I'm sure this list of templates is going to grow in time, but for now, we have these 5 different options for now. And we're going to go ahead and select product development. All right, so from here, you can go ahead and if you want to switch to a different type of template, you can go ahead and switch out from here. You can pick whatever is relevant to your project. I'm going to go ahead and pick tasks, features, roadmap, issues, and sprints. We're going to go ahead and skip that for now. We can go ahead and name this project management as an app. You can pick a color, and we're going to go ahead and that's kind of neat. You can go ahead and pick the icon. It will give you a preview on the right-hand side where it will give you the different views and tables. I'm going to go ahead and finish. Once everything has been generated, you can see the preview here, and you can go ahead and edit the app. You can inspect it. You can see what's been generated for us, and you can go ahead and edit it. And you can go ahead and do a tour. In our case, you can see here that everything's marked as unpublished. So if you want to go ahead and use that particular interface, you're going to go ahead and click publish. You can modify it. So in our case, let's say I want to work with the roadmap first and then do my tweaking and make some changes. I can go ahead and do that, change the filtering and modify and include additional tabs. From here, change the filter and change the sorting, publishing it. So once I'm done, I can pretty much say, okay, I'm ready to publish this and have it available for everyone to work with this particular pick and go ahead and publish it. I'm highlighting the only one that I'm publishing at this point. I can go ahead and select multiple interfaces if I want. So once you go out and get out to your workspace, you can see here the roadmap is the one that's been published, and you can go ahead and go back and modify the data from there. So you can see here there's like different spreadsheets, right? You've only published the actual view, but you haven't really published anything for the rest of it. So you modify the data here and work with a different table and spreadsheet. You can go ahead and double click it. It's using the formula type of data or field type. You can change it from here. You can pick from wide range of options. You can add some description. You have a start date, you have an end date based on a formula. As you can see by the symbol next to the actual field title, you can see the number on the sprint duration formula. But you can go ahead and expand this and scroll from the bottom and scroll to the right. This is like linked to another view, which is the task or the features. You can go ahead and click that, and it give you like a good representation in the UI on how it links to that. So you can go ahead and modify it and change it, and it will go straight to the actual table or spreadsheet that is linked to this particular field. It'll even go ahead and give you the count. Let's say for this one, it's going to give you the total task count. Looks like it's linked to the task. So there's a lot of customization option. You can go ahead and modify this according to the requirement, and you can even add a view here, such a calendar or gallery or Kanban board if you want. There's different options based on the plan that you're signed up for. For instance, the timeline view is only available for the team tier plan and the Gantt chart. You can go ahead and also include a form as part of the view. You can create a view for a particular table or spreadsheet that you have. For instance, in this case, I'm adding a form for the sprints. Anyone have the ability to be able to fill out a form and add a new record to the sprints. So that's pretty much how you work with Airtable. If you go back to the project management here, so you can work with the data, being able to view their automations. You can create some automations here, and you have the interfaces. So we can go back and create an automation. For instance, we can, if you've used Zapier before, this is a way to have this like trigger action approach where you can set up a trigger. In this case, you have quite a bit of options here. So when the record matches conditions, or you can type in a criteria when the record is created, so on and so forth. Let's say when record created, we're going to create a trigger for that. We can go ahead and rename this automation to however we want it. And if a specific trigger has been created, we can go ahead and create different actions for it. So we're going to go ahead and publish that. Since they have different integration points, we can go ahead and send a message to Slack if you want to. There's like a Gmail where you can send an email, and so on and so forth. There's also internal tools that allows you to perform within Airtable, such as sending email or creating a record. So if you're tying up two tables within project management, you can go ahead and create a new record in a separate spreadsheet. So you can go ahead and do that or update, or however you want. You can go ahead and even run a script. So there's tons of customizations here. That's it for Airtable. Moving over to Retable here, I'm signed in. So they have a different approach as far as how they introduce you to their platform. They will have you choose which type of applications using Retable for. In this case, I'm just going to go with a startup. Let's say I'm doing a startup. So it takes you to the dashboard, and then you can just kind of poke around, and it will give you this like step by step and just kind of show you around. But the main thing to take a look at here is just the way it's laid out is different. So it'll give you a workspace one by default, which is similar to Airtable and how they had it. But you can access the templates from the top. So if you're performing some sort of application tracking, it'll give you quite a bit of templates, and everything's presented in a different manner than compared to Airtable. So resources on the top left, and then you got workspaces here. And from the bottom, you can add another workspace. Let's say you have a workspace dedicated to just human resources. So you can add it here. So you can have it for your organization or personal use. So now you have two workspaces, workspace one and a human resources. You can go ahead and go up to the top. Let's say I'm looking for product backlog. Same thing as what we're doing here. Give you a preview of what is included in the template, but it looks like what kind of columns is included in it. So it's going to get you started. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this one. I'm going to use template, and then allows me to select a workspace. Let's go ahead and start from the beginning here, and let's take a look at the rows that's presented here. You have kind of the same approach. You can double click it, and you can go ahead and hide the columns. You can rename it to however you want, and similar to Airtable, you have an option to go and change the field type, or in this case column types, to a different one. Formula, you have text, there's a number field, checkbox fields, you have email, you have phone number, you even have colors. So all these options for columns is available here, and there's like a premium type of columns that's only available for premium users. Add a QR code as a type. If you want to hide certain columns, you can do it from here. So when you double click a field you'll be able to see everything, and you're gonna be able to scroll from the bottom. If you want to scroll down to the end, if you want to add a new field, for instance, and you can choose a different one. Interested in this color, I want to make this required field. I can make this optional or make this unique. So in this case, there's like a color picker that you can choose. It's kind of cute. Add notes, and then for this one, I want to add a different color. You can do an import. If you have an existing that you want to import and just import it, you can also export a table or delete a table. Let's go ahead and take a look at AITable here, and we're logged in. When we first create a new account, we're presented with a sample data that we can work with, just to kind of get a feel of how it works. You get some sample data and some sample nodes and some sample views, all grouped by the folder. And you can see here, you can go ahead and add a new one for your space. You're presented with a default space when you first get started. I'm presented with the default workspace or space in my account, and I can go ahead and create multiple space if I want to. In my existing space, I can go ahead and add a new datasheet, new form, new dashboard. AITable is the only one that has this feature, which is like AI Chatbot, which I'm going to be showing off later on in this video. But from here, you can go ahead and add different things. I can go ahead and create from a template similar to Airtable, and there's like a list of recommended template that they offer, such as what's hot, what people are using at the moment. There's like a project management type of template. Categorized by that, you can go ahead and take a look here at the different options that they have. You have one for spreadsheet management, you have one for single project, and all kinds of different templates by different categories. So I'm going to go ahead and select the sprints management here. They're going to give you a preview on what's going to be generated for us. It's going to give you the different views and the different tables or different nodes that's going to be generated for us, signified by the icon on the left hand side. So we can go ahead and use this template, and then we're going to be adding it to the space, use the data in this template. So we can go ahead and pre-fill it with some default data if you want to or not. It's up to us, but let's go ahead and pre-fill it with some sample data so we can work with it and kind of give you an idea how to work with this. We can always easily remove it if we want to later on, but it gives you the same thing with Airtable here. We can go ahead and modify each field by double clicking on it. You can tell that it's this function based on this icon that you see here. You go ahead and taking a look, and this objective, it looks like it's a long text based on this icon. We can set as required if you want to. And from here, you can pretty much see that this one have also a linked between a different node. There's a sprint task linked to this one, which is linked to this particular node. So you can go ahead and click on a task associated with it, or sprint task, and it will just go ahead and give you UI based on that particular action. So if you want to go ahead and modify the data straight for that task, you can go ahead and double click it. It'll give you the view for it, and you can go ahead and change it from here. So the different option that you have is quite a bit too. So you have the line text, URL, pretty much a lot of the common field types that you're going to be seeing in Retable and Airtable is pretty much available for us. We can even have a lookup type of field types, and we have that one-way link and two-way link here. So there's some cool stuff here that you can select. There's quite a bit of options. You can do a find, and we can even use a Copilot if you want to interact and get some idea in how to work with this particular node. We can go ahead and set the grid or the grouping for this particular one. We're going to go ahead and taking a look at the API here. Since AITable is API driven, you can see here there's additional options such as API, and if you want to go to the automation, there's like a drop down here under advanced where you can do automation. Let's go ahead and take a look at API real quick. So for specific to sprints node, you can see here that you can go ahead and work with each individual fields, get some records by means of they have some sample code here on how to do that, some JavaScript Python code, but it will give you the particular URL of the API and how to work with it. In particular, you can go ahead and create your API token and do your settings. More on that later. If you want to do some automation, you can go ahead and click on advanced and click on automation. You also have this flow where you can add a trigger, and then you're going to go ahead and add an action if a particular event has been triggered. So in this case, we're presented with 4 different types of trigger. We have the form has been submitted. We have records that matches our condition, records created, and scheduled based type of trigger. So you can go ahead and change that based on your needs. If you want a scheduled approach, and if you want to take some actions, you can go ahead and send a web request to a separate API to send a message to Slack, or even send an email. So those are pretty much the different options that you have currently for AITable. And after you've added this automation, you can go ahead and enable it, and that will fire up based on the requirement that you've set up for your automation. I want to go ahead and showcase the chatbot feature, and AITable is the only one that provides this feature at this moment. If you want to go ahead and add a chatbot, you can go ahead and add a new agent from here, and you can name it your agent however you want based on whatever specific use case you have. You can select the bot. You have the QA and the chat options. We're going to go ahead and add a QA type of chatbot. And from here, you can go ahead and select your data sheet. We're going to go ahead and select the bug tracking, for instance, and click OK. It's going to go ahead and train the AI agent based on the data that's in the bug tracking node. And it's going to give us some sample data after it's been done. So this is going to take some time depending on how much data do you have. But after that, and after some time, it's going to give you some questions that you can use to interact with the chatbot. You can ask which devices experience compatibility defects with the app. You go ahead and click on that. It'll give you the chatbot. It's going to go ahead and respond on that. And you can go ahead and publish this. Let's go ahead and take a look at the different integration and API for the different platforms that we have. We're going to go ahead and start it with the Airtable first. If you go to their integrations page, they have integrations with Asana, Basecamp. So there's quite a bit of integration points that they have here with Gmail, Google Calendar, Instagram, Jira, and so forth. As far as the web API documentation, they do have a documentation well laid out here. They give you some documentation on the authentication and how to do authentication with them, the types of authentication that they support. They support the personal access tokens, OAuth type of flow, and with different scopes. And it will give you an idea here by giving you the different requirements for interacting with their API, how to call their API, and how to create an authorization with it. They give you ability to be able to work with the records. You can list the records, get record, update multiple records if you want to, even delete multiple records. And you can even interact with the different fields that they have, also with the comments, configuring tables, updating tables, creating tables, and so forth. And some other things such as webhooks, about working with their internal tools at this point and what's available in the actual Airtable platform. So there's quite a bit of things that you can work with as far as their API. One thing I want to quickly mention about Airtable as well is they have some SDK available that they already created as part of this in addition to their API. So they have a JavaScript Airtable client that they have specific to Node.js and the browser. So if you're using this technology, they have the official client that's available for you. And there's also a community-built API clients as well. There's one for Ruby, one for .NET, and for Python 2 and 3. If you want to go ahead and get started and use their API from the SDK, you can go ahead and do that if you're working with these particular frameworks and libraries. So that makes it easier to work with the API. Let's go ahead and take a look at their API. You can go ahead and work with their data, Workspace, project, and Retable. It gives some documentation on how to generate your API key, being able to use it, and how to structure your URL to be able to communicate with the API, starting with the Workspace, understanding of what the different IDs are and how it relates to the URL segments of the API and how you can work with it, being able to pass in the API key on the headers, and being able to work with the different endpoints, such as what type of API URLs and what type of headers you need to be passing in, and what type of objects you're expecting to get back when you are making a request to the API. So it'll tell you which type of columns you're going to get back, what type of column types that you're going to be expecting, UTC for date time, and so on and so forth. On the right hand side, you can easily navigate to a specific part of the API that you want to work with. For instance, you want to get a project, you go ahead and click on that one, and it will give you the URL and what type of IDs you need to specify as part of the API URL and your API key. So it's quite simple and straightforward. So that's Retable. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at AITable's documentation for their integration and their API. Their integration at this point is very slim. They only have 3 types of integration: Zapier, Make.com, and Active Pieces. But I'm sure that this list is going to grow over time as this is a fairly new company. But let's take a look at their API documentation. They give you 2 different ways of being able to integrate with their API. First is communicate via their API URL and using the API token. And the second way is to be able to communicate via the SDK that they provided here. Currently, they only have the JavaScript and the Python SDK available. If that's the framework or language that you're currently working with, you're pretty much in good hands, and they'll have those SDK available for you. But nonetheless, you do have an ability to communicate with their API. They have a way of communicating and getting the records, creating records, updating records, being able to work with data sheets, being able to get the list of spaces, and so on and so forth. You can go ahead and dive deep into these different types. You can even go ahead and create some chat completions here. They have quite a bit of functionality as part of their API. So you can go ahead and take a look at their documentation. Let's go ahead and take a look at the price for Airtable first, starting with the different plans that they have. They have free plan, a team, business, and enterprise plan. So if you're just getting started, you just want to check out Airtable and what they have to offer, play around with their interface and add some records, set up a workspace. I think the free plan is a pretty generous tier. They have a limited basis for each workspace. They give you 1,000 records per base, which is good enough to be able to test it out and see if this platform is the right one for you. Basically, you get 1 workspace and you only have 5 people that you can allow to work within that 1 workspace. You're allowed to make 50 commenters. What's one thing that's nice about this, it kind of gives you a little bit of a description of what that feature entails. So here you can tell it gives you 1 gigs of space per base. They give you a 2-week of revision history. So you want to go back 2 weeks in older historical snapshot of the data, then you can go back up to 2 weeks. It gives you real-time collaboration and commenting, and it gives you access to mobile app as well. And gives you the Gantt chart and some other things here. And some other plans, like other views such as the Gantt chart, are only available in the higher tier. So if you think you want to bring in your team and you're ready to get started, then the team might work best for you. You're limited by up to 50,000 records per base, which is probably good enough for a single team. But if you're working with multiple teams, obviously a business might suit you best as it gives you 125,000 per records per base. And they have unlimited workspace here. The only problem is you're limited by 125,000. So you have to kind of think about how much you want to allocate per team. If you're trying to organize your workspaces this way, you have unlimited workspaces, but you also are limited by records per base. Going ahead and taking a look at Retable's pricing plan here, they only have 3 plans available for us: starter plan, the team plan, and an enterprise. They don't have a free plan that's available. They only have a 1-month free trial that you can use and start out with. Then you're going to be forced to sign up to either a team plan or an enterprise plan, with team plan starting with $12 per month per user, technically $12 per user per month, and you have to pay upfront for the whole year. So what's included in the starter plan? It comes with 50,000 records per project. You have 1 gig of attachment space per workspace. You have automation webhooks, but if you look at here at the bottom, you only get 1 automation per project with 100 automation run total per project per month. And even if you sign up for the team plan, which includes 10 gigs of attachment space per workspace, you're only allowed to create 10 automation per project, and you can run 1,000 automation run per project per month. So as far as automation is concerned, Table is lacking in the automation department, as they're limiting you to 1,000 automation runs per project per month, and you can only include 10 automation per project. So even if you go up and grab the lifetime deal, we're going to go ahead and take a look at it as well. So for a lifetime one-time payment of $199, you get 50,000 records per project, which is quite significant. But then again, going back to the automation and webhook runs per month, you're only limited by 1,000 runs per month. And if you want to go ahead and move to the next tier, the only difference is you're getting 20 seats as opposed to 10 seats. You get the same amount of space and you get the same amount of automation and automation runs per month. If you're doing a comparison here between Retable and Airtable, if you go down to the API calls, you get unlimited API calls here versus 100,000 per month for a one-time payment of $199. So even though they're lacking as far as automation is concerned, if you do an automation from Zapier or Active Pieces, for instance, you have unlimited API calls. So something to keep in mind, while they're lacking on the automation front, they actually make up for it in the API calls. So it might be a great deal if you're coming from an external application like Zapier for your automation. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at Aitable's pricing page here. And as you notice, there's like 3 different categories. We're not going to go over the self-hosted one, but for the individual and small teams and for business and enterprise, it's you have a free tier, right? If underneath the for individual and small teams and starter and plus, and you got a popular one as well. Not really going to get a lot of details from the top. You got to go scroll down to the bottom. From here, you can see that you have 5 file nodes for the free one, 30 from the starter, and 5 for the plus one. So I think that's kind of first of all, that's kind of the major thing that you're going to be differentiating between these different plans. And you get 1 gig attachment, 10 gig, 20, and 50. The major thing that you are probably going to want to notice is the amount of automation, 30 per month versus 500, 1,000, and 10,000 per month. So this is the automation that's, if you're doing automation for a particular data sheet, you're going to be limited by this per month, which is quite okay. You might have to move to a starter or plus, but even then for 92 is still a little limited, especially that you only get 3,000 and 20,000 records. You might have to be at least on this pro level, which is $92 per. So if you're a business and requiring a bit more records per data sheet, 50,000, you might have to go up to $290 per month, which is quite a bit. But I mean, for an enterprise or business, I think that's still a pretty good deal. And you get 1,000 records per space. This is for the total space. If you sign up for a business, if you are allocating it everything for the entire business, then you get 1 million records per space total combined. So something to keep in mind. You get access to a bunch of different views. Activities for records is 12 months for retention. There's 20 API query per second. You see API access, context API. And the only difference between the different tiers at this point is the file nodes versus 100 and 300 for the full file nodes. As far as the agents, you can create 5 agents in the tier 1, 10 AI agents in tier 2, and 30 AI agents. If you care about the chatbots that you're going to be creating off of each node, this is something to pay attention to. 1,000 message credits per month means that how much credit you have to be able to communicate with the chatbot per month. The automation total per month that you can create from the Airtable itself. So when you're creating an automation in a node, this is how much you can create per month. But if you're trying to automate it from an external application such as Zapier or Active Pieces or whatnot, 20,000 total API requests per month is quite decent, especially for a one-time purchase of $59. So something to keep in mind when you're thinking about Airtable at this point and looking into purchasing it. So if you prefer an established company, Airtable, the way to go. I mean, they've been around the block. They're the standard as far as these types of spreadsheet-like tools, creating contacts and so forth. So if you are keen on a company that's been around and established and you like their interface, I think Airtable is the way to go, especially if you have a large organization that requires GDPR compliance and security. The only cons is the price. At this point, it's $45. If you're going to go ahead and go with the business tier that they have, it's $45 per person, but you get quite a bit of record at $125,000, which exceeds what Retable and AITable has to offer at this point. Only limitation is the 100 gigs, but that's about it. So, but if you prefer to go with Retable and you like their UI better, which I doubt, and I don't think it's not as good as Airtable, but if you insist on getting a better price, since Retable is a cheaper alternative, they've been also pretty new. They're not as established as Airtable, but if you're gonna go with Retable at this point, go ahead and grab the one-time license that they have, grab the deal, and you get like a better pricing. If you value having an unlimited API access, Retable is the way to go, and you like their UI. But if I'm gonna go with Retable, go ahead and get the LTD license, because this is a one-time license only, and you only pay once, and you get, depending on your requirement, 10 or 20 and 30 seats. $199 one time is not a bad deal. If you're looking into AITable, the great thing about AITable is that even though they only have 100,000 total API requests per month, you have AI chatbots that you can create. And that's one thing that Airtable and Retable doesn't provide, is it allows you to create AI agent based on your data sheets that you create. So if you need that feature and you need the extra attachment storage, I think you can't go wrong with AITable at this point. And you're allowed 50,000 total automations per month here from within AITable versus an external API request call per month versus 1,000 automation and webhook runs per month. So if you prefer the API automation, obviously Retable has unlimited. You can't really compete with that. But as far as automation within the actual platform itself, Airtable has a leg up, as you can do 50,000 versus Retable's 1,000 automation. So, all right. So this wraps it up for this video. If you have any specific topics that you'd like me to do a video on, please write it down in the comments. I read every single one of them. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe if you'd like to see more contents like this in the future. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Goodbye.